Evidence suggests that individuals with a diagnosis of personality disorder are likely to have suffered a greater number of adverse childhood experiences, such as abuse or neglect, than those without a diagnosis. Relationships with healthcare professionals can often be difficult for both parties, as traumatic experiences are replayed in everyday interactions and framed within expectations of abandonment and persecution. If professionals are better able to understand the internal dialogue of emotionally dysregulated individuals, it can become easier to withstand the negative projections directed at them and react positively, promoting empowerment, collaboration, and recovery.
I just sort of started to mistrust people, and that's where I started to isolate and get a lot more paranoid, assuming that everyone else was going to be thinking something probably very unpleasant. I think at the point where I realised I needed to do something about it, I was probably maybe 16. So I really don't know how to describe myself very well. Other people's fine, I draw a blank on myself. The main thing I'm not very good at getting over is that I'm not excellent always at being able to sort of control emotions. There's always something going on in my head is always ticking, my head is always going, and so quite probably, as much as I'm able to focus on and listen to people, just be aware that if I'm not 100% chipper, there's a reason for it. I'm not just sort of being sulky or grumpy. You know, when I was actually in my more bad state, I think I'd have just seen healthcare professionals as paid so much they don't really need to give a monkeys about what I have to say. Expecting them to just come along, listen to this idiot talking because they have to, and then go home and, you know, either forget about it or laugh about it, you know, not having sort of any kind of issues or down days at all. Effectively just having money appearing from nooks in the wall and, yeah, essentially people who have got it all completely set. Whenever I've spoken to healthcare professionals in an interaction I found helpful, a sort of human respect, being listened to, and actually listened to and heard and clarified if things weren't understood, that kind of thing. Those sort of things are absolutely essential. Patience was a very key thing, and not assuming that I'm saying something when I'm not. Tell me that the feelings are allowed to be there and are real. It's about validating the fact that yes, anger is okay, the same goes with sadness, the same goes with fear. I think the main point I'd like to sort of say to professionals who are watching this is that the people that you're going to be dealing with, if they've got a sort of diagnosis of personality disorder, or even if they haven't and they've just got the issues, if you're finding the interactions confusing, I think you've got to remember that they're probably going to be finding it confusing too. My head in the middle of my issues, I've always described it as like a switchboard with about 800 calls coming through at once, and I can't identify any specific one, and so when you're talking over the top of it, I can't really hear what you're saying because everything else is going on as well. And so I think it's remember that if you're sort of dealing with somebody who's coming across as a bit weird, possibly presenting as angry, most likely they're coming from a place of confusion and fear and stress themselves. And so just be patient, keep going with it, you're doing a good job. It's not going to be you, it's going to be whatever's going on in the head.
Well, finding difficulties in relationships, I think it first started at school. I always thought other people saw me as stupid, useless, waste of space. That I had nothing nice to say, I wasn't a very nice person, and that, you know, I had no place here. You know, I'd like people to be aware that, yeah, I have got substance, I have got things to say, I can make decisions, I can do anything that somebody would like to ask me to do, but, you know, I am a human being, I am a person. I was in a complete and absolute state when I actually moved here, and I couldn't get hold of anybody, and I phoned up and they said, oh, we'll book you in for an emergency appointment. And then she'd said to me, what, you know, would you like me to do? And I said, well, what can you do? You're only somebody that's getting paid to sit and listen to me. As soon as I walk out of here, you're off on something else totally. And she got up and she said, I wouldn't be here in front of you if I didn't care. And that made me sort of change my mind, that professionals are there because they care. I always thought they were there because, it's a good paid job and you were much better off than I was, and you have your Mercedes, your mansion, your 2.4 children, and you're absolutely sorted. There's nothing wrong. I didn't know how to say what I was feeling inside. So there was no digging in deeper. What is really inside you? What is really going on? And I found that hard because I couldn't explain it, but they didn't want to explore it. Your mindset is that everybody is against you anyway, and because of the low self-worth and feeling that nobody cares, that's what you interpret, that, people just don't care about me or don't want to listen to me or don't want to know about me or anything like that. So I think one of the most useful things that I've found is that clinicians need to be more empathetic and not sympathetic. And I found some have had a lot of empathy, some have sort of said, I'm really sorry you've had to do this to yourself. And the other main thing is to listen and to make sure if you're saying something to me that I've listened to you. Because if you can imagine, your brain has a rock band, a heavy metal band, you've got opera singer, and it's all going on at the same time. I might pick up one word from you and that word could make me feel awful, absolutely awful. So it's always best to check that I've heard exactly what you said.
If professionals remain trauma-focused and interactions are influenced by the question, what has happened to you, as opposed to, why are you behaving like this, it will result in more compassionate care and positive outcomes for all involved.